Hi, my name is Ernest Toll and welcome to Star Property TV's Inspiring Individuals series. Today we have the great fortune and honor to actually have a very reputable gentleman in our studios today. He's none other than Datuk Ng Seing Liong. Now, I just wanted to also share a little bit about Datuk before we dive in. He's a senior partner of SL Ng and Associates. He's an executive director of SL Ng Tax Services Sdn Bhd, an executive director of SL Ng Corporate Solutions Sdn Bhd. He's a patron, past president of REDA from 2006 to 2010, and he has been actively involved in the association in various capacities over the last 25 years. Currently, on a trustee for the REDA Institute, Datuk Ng also sits on the various other capacities of other boards. Datuk, thanks for coming. Let's delve into the topic. In terms of, let's go to the beginning. How did you get involved in the construction industry?
Oh, that one, first thing first, I think my dad got involved with the construction industry, but he was not in the construction industry. So happened that during that time, he was all the time in the provision shop keeper business, selling rice, flour, and all sort of provisions. Then he had a piece of land, and then someone gave him the idea of housing development. That time I was still in school, So then he got somebody to help him. But that project doesn't do well. It complete, make some money, but not as well as what he expected. Then he lay off for a while. After he completed the project, he lay off. Until I came out, he joint venture with some friends on this development again, and he called me in. So that was how I got involved. And we started off quite well until that everybody got into the first recession of in the mid-80s when the cooperative problems surfaced. And then the company got into some other problems and some cash flow problems. And eventually I have to take over and take over this company. And that time the company was nothing to shout about, just a skeleton, But from there I built up from the late 80s till today. Kota Klang Development, same name.
But that's what, you were not an engineer by training, correct, or associated with the building industry?
Yeah, because that time I was qualified as an accountant.
Okay.
But and then I started my accountancy business, my audit, and my dad was saying that business is a bit slow, and then asked me to also get involved with this construction development business. That was how I managed to delve the two together.
Well done, well done. So Datuk, since the beginning of your involvement in this industry, with the first projects, how has the company grown since in terms of the projects and the projects you've done?
Now, then from year to year, decades after decades, now my company have grown to a reasonable size. Now my commercial properties is doing very well. I even built a small township in Klang, and and embarking on more project looking forward. I have my second son now helping me.
Okay.
It's where the succession planning is in place.
Well done.
Or else if there's no other people help, and then maybe we have to stop.
Okay. That's what I just want to also talk about some of the things that you've been involved in terms of association. I noticed that you're very active in REDA, 25 years and counting already. And I presume if you count the clock backwards, probably since 90s you have been quite involved.
In fact, I was involved in REDA since the early or late 70s and early 80s. In fact, more than 30 over years. Okay. I started after taking over that company. So happened that company was in Klang, and that time the company belongs to our President Tan Sri Seing Liong. He was a secretary at that time. And when we took over the company, he just said, "Hey, young man, you better continue as a secretary." That time I don't know, just let the mentor take us through, and then they gave me the position. It was how I worked from. It was only in Klang. It is only what we call a subcommittee.
Okay.
Then eventually I become the Selangor committee, and I'm still in the Selangor committee, the longest serving Selangor committee.
Well done.
Unbroken, you know.
Well done.
I think maybe 30, 40 years.
Well done.
Until I rise up into the National Council of REDA, and I became the treasurer, the deputy president, and president.
Okay.
And today I'm the patron and
Past president.
Past president.
Excellent. So the purposes of REDA being established essentially is to amalgamate all the housing developers to come together to actually have a voice and to be able to promote that voice within the Malaysian context. Would that be correct?
Yes, correct. At the same time, it's more the aim is to have a one voice, and at the same time to deal with the government, you know, and to deal with the government, and at the same time, you see, REDA have to be proactive. We have to help the government to build up the whole nation. That is the intention. We are not here just to. We are giving the government of Malaysia a more positive contribution than the negative contribution.
Okay. Now, some of the challenges that we currently are seeing right now is housing prices being so out of reach for a lot of Malaysians. And I think that the voice of the rakyat has always said, oh, very expensive, cost of living has escalated, property prices are going up, the developers must be making a lot of money. How would you respond to that, Datuk?
You see, when you look at housing development, there are three areas that you're looking at. One is the land cost. The other portion is the construction cost. Then only the developer's profit. If you look at the developer's profit, it's actually not that high. You take the top listed 10 listed company, development company in the country, it's only between 10 to 20%.
Oh.
It's not really that high.
Okay.
It's any business. To keep the business going, you need that sort of profit. Then you look at the cost of construction. That's where the major costs come in. Then you look at the land cost.
Okay.
That's where how it become the cost of the property.
So if you say that three main components where the profitability of the development company is between 10 and 20%, then the other two components would be either 90 or 80%?
80, sometimes 30, sometimes 50.
Oh, okay.
And recently, there's another cost that came in. That is the compliance cost that we call. That means the government collection of all the contributions. For example, conversion land premium, development charge, IWK contribution, electricity, TNB contribution, Shabas contribution, And you know that all the roads and drains where developers have to build and have to at the same time give up all the lands to the authorities. These are all costs to the development.
So theoretically, if the land is 100 acres,
the most you can use 60 acres, 60%, 40% you have to give up.
Okay.
So it's in development business, I would say that it's just the same like any other business, where you have to have your little bit of profit margin and then compare. But what we are hearing outside is the cost keep on going up. That one is either our ringgit go down, the imported goods that came in on. Another big factor is our labor cost has also gone up.
Is it true that finding labour to actually build and construct now is much more difficult and much more costly?
Much more costly. It's definitely because we are facing, even with foreign labours, we are still facing challenges. You know, the Indonesians are, their economy is better. A lot of it already gone back. Now you got from other countries that are coming in, and they all demand a higher price.
Can you imagine?
And recently, when our ringgit has been attacked and the value of our ringgit gone down, the foreign labours are now even asking for more.
Oh, to compensate for
the shortfall.
Well, that just ultimately means the buyer has to pay more.
The buyers have to pay more.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's also another cry in the market that says, getting a loan is so difficult to buy.
Yes, that is another area where we always tell the government, this is a very productive area. You should give loans, to easily accessible loans to the buyers, especially the first-time home buyers, where we encourage them to own houses, and we must have a plan where it's flexible for these first-time home buyers, in the sense that they can have a small bailout, then a bigger loan, but the loan can be stretched longer period. But in between, you don't demand such a high installment payment. Maybe the first 5 years just pay interest, don't have to pay the installment payment. Because we find that why we use the word first-time home buyers, we also went through the same meal. When we first came up, we don't earn that much. After that, our income escalate. Then you can pay more. And we feel that owning a property is a long-term investment, whereby you will know that the value will go up, compared with, let's say, buying other assets like a car, where you guarantee it will depreciate. The moment you start the engine, you'll lose 20-30% of your value. Whereas an assets, a property, is a long-term investment for your future.
Okay. Datuk, coming back towards making houses more affordable per se, I think you also mentioned that there may be ways for developers to look at the cost-saving measures for development per se, and therefore look at perhaps reducing costs. Are there technologies that can be incorporated to reduce the cost?
Yeah, one of them is, as I said recently in the Valuers Association's seminar, is the compliance cost, the government compliance cost. By right, the government should help and reduce that compliance cost. Okay, and the other part of it is construction have to be improved. Methods have to be improved by using industrial building system. But the trouble is, with the industrial building system, we need to have more volume to take advantage of the system. And in Malaysia, for example, I always quote that we still don't have that volume, and we don't have that standard building yet. You see? Whereby people still want to have their own design, own style of planning. If you have a standard one, no doubt it's monotonous, but for the affordable housing sector, we should introduce that so that we can bring the cost down. A good example is our neighbor. You look at Singapore. Their standard housing, everyone is the same.
Yeah, the HDB flats are very modular and same. Yeah.
You can see one, you can see all. Okay? So why not we do it for the affordable sector?
Well, it was recently quoted that up to 220,000 affordable houses are to be delivered. And to make each and every one uniquely different is going to be quite an expensive task.
It's a challenge.
Okay, but would this address the issue of affordability and home ownership? Building affordable housing, Dato'?
You see, affordable housing is for people who cannot afford the higher cost. There are people just want a roof over their head. Looking at a good example is either Singapore or you look at Hong Kong. So that means you don't bring in the fancy ideas, just for them to have a comfortable place to live in, That's it. And I even emphasize that our planning condition, especially car parking, have to be curtailed in this affordable housing. You keep on asking developers to provide so many car parks. By right, you want to stay in affordable housing, you shouldn't own a car. You should go for public transport or try to walk more, better exercise.
Some may actually disagree, Dato', because sometimes public transport may be far connecting or disconnected.
Yes,
where they live.
that is another problem that where the government have to solve. You see, that means the moment you come to the station, they must have enough feeder buses to go round. So that's another solution. So we are talking about which one come first, whether the egg come first or the chicken come first. We still have to, but I feel that by building so many, parking lots, actually it has impact on the cost of construction.
Yeah, it's either you take up the space or you build more levels.
More levels.
Yeah.
Good example is in Melbourne. Melbourne, in the CBD areas, you are not encouraged to have more parking. You want to have parking, you pay for your parking lots.
So it's an option rather than it comes directly.
Then now it's become part of the planning.
Right.
That one where I feel that is one of the factors that increase the cost of the condominiums or the high-rise apartments.
Dato', can I also ask why some of the developers right now are focusing mainly on high-rise rather than landed, when a lot of Malaysians, if you were to ask them randomly, would they prefer landed or high-rise, most of them would say landed, but developers are tending to build more high-rise.
Yeah,
Why would that be?
high-rise is more in the urban area where the land cost is very high. If there is a choice, if you can go and stay on the outskirts, there are still a lot of landed property. But the thing is, the trouble from the outskirts to move into the city in the morning is the jam is terrible.
I see. So it's a combination of transport and feeders.
That's why this year, MAPEC's team, I use the word greater connectivity for more affordable homes.
Oh, I think that's a very apt theme right now.
And I have also invited our Minister of Transport to be my guest, my VIP for the opening ceremony.
Well done.
So I feel that I told the minister that I feel I need him so that this message can be sent across. That people need to now think more of going for public transport.
Okay. That's again, along the lines of Reda, the challenges that the association or the developers in the association are facing moving forward. You've got falling ringgit, weak ringgit, you've got labour shortage or difficult to find labour at a price that is able to be abated by the revenues that you get. You get all these components that are imposed upon you, the conditions that are imposed upon you. What's the way out for Reda?
The way out for us is we need the government to come in. Take this as a national agenda. Come forward and help. Not just the developers to contribute for this affordable housing. We must also bring in other sectors. The sector that I always like to point out is banks, for example. Banks make a lot of money. Look at their reporting. They make millions and millions, and yet our housing loans are also contributing to their profits. By right, they should also take a portion and come and help the affordable housing. You see?
That's it.
And,
there's also some challenges with regard to developers not being able to complete projects, and abandoned projects are being seen to be on the rise. What do you think about that, Dato'? Should anybody get into the game? Because everybody thinks that developers make so much money.
That's why before you get into the games, you must know the law. The law is so clearly stated that for landed properties, it's 24 months you need to complete. For high-rise building, it's 36 months. before you get into this game, you should know this law first. And at the same time, as a successful developer, you must always think of your house buyers. You must help the house buyers. You must also make sure that all your house buyers, after buying your property, should also make money out of it. You see, and if you cannot complete, I think the law is very clear that there is a LAD there for you to pay. Okay, so I think we are very clear on that section.
So essentially, that's what you're saying is that before you get into the game, to be a great developer, you got to understand the market, understand the law, and work together with your homeowners.
Yeah, home buyers.
And everybody must
and
win.
Must take care of your home buyers, and have a passion to help them.
Okay. Now I just want to talk a little bit, one question about it's a bit of private question, but I wanted to just ask you, I know that you're a family man and you have children. Can I just ask you, how do you educate them with regard to wealth and wealth building? And judging from your experience growing up, not being in a developer company or developer family, and then eventually falling into it, how do you educate your children?
Well, as I started my conversation this morning, I started more of a provision shopkeeper. You know, during my young days, I used to go to the shop and sell rice, sell this, sell that. And eventually, then I got myself educated. Then your focus start thinking, do you want that business or you want to go on to your other business? I took the other way around. I never looked back onto the family business. I came out on my own, and all the businesses that I said and I do I set it up.
Well done. So, Datuk, one last final question. If someone who is just starting their career and probably working for the last 6 months only, or just moving to their first year, now having a little bit of cash with them on hand, or maybe with the parental support to put some money aside somehow, what would your advice be to this young individual who's just starting their career out in terms of wealth building, self-preservation, and becoming better equipped to face the challenges of the future?
Okay, first thing is you must know how much do you have. Okay, if it's sufficient for down payment for a house, then by all means do it. But that also, you don't simply jump into the bandwagon. You must always look at the property and looking at it, how much loan do you require, whether you have sufficient fund to pay for the loan, and the other part of it is whether you need a longer tenure of time to pay off, or do you in the first place need the property? Okay, if you don't need the property now, don't rush. Stay with your parents first, or until you are more stable. Then only you start looking for it. In the meantime, whatever fund that you have, you just save it. There are a lot of savings that you can go in that can earn you some interest, you know, and then from there you build up your this wealth. Because building up of wealth is not one day. You have to consistently build it up, and at the same time, you have to budget. Okay, live within your means, and you can enjoy, but then live what is necessary, and then at the same time you can save. You save whatever that you can save. But if the opportunity come, and if you feel that property is in the good location, there's a strong chance of appreciation. By all means, go in. And at the same time, compare the property that you're buying to the yield that you're getting. That means, is there any prospect for good rental? That is one of the indicator for property to rise up in value in future.
Dato', I digress a little bit because this is something that I just also have recently read, whereby the pricing for some of the properties right now are future pricing rather than present pricing.
So you have to be extra careful. Always go for the yield. I have heard people saying like, oh, no, 2 or 3 million is cheap, but can you rent out? Let's say if you cannot rent out, there's no value to it.
Right. So rentability is
Rentability, the yield is an important factor in this investment.
great. Well, thank you so much, Dato'. I really learned so much from you today with regard to the gems and tips. Perhaps what we could do later on, Dato', is actually to have follow-ups in terms of developing the affordability question and the answers to that to help more Malaysians become homeowners, to say.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in into this month's Inspiring Individual series. Again, I'd like to thank Datuk S.L. Ng, who's taken his time to come here to share his thoughts on how we as Malaysians can become better nation team members by becoming homeowners as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Datuk. Very well done. Thank you.